بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, brothers, so inshallah today we want to talk about the fiqh of zakah. So normally I do this near the first weekend of Ramadan, first Saturday or Sunday. Sorry that I'm doing it now, but inshallah it'll be helpful and applicable, inshallah. So fiqh of zakah, and what we're going to do actually is not going to really talk about things that I think most of us know, how to add up our assets and multiply by 2.5% and things like that, and what is the nisab and hawl, and I think we all know that, okay? So I'm going to focus on things that I get a lot of questions on, inshallah. Okay, so something that maybe is not so, especially sometimes not easy to find these things in books and things like that. Okay, and they're dealing with sometimes contemporary matters as well, like RRSPs. Okay, so we're going to go over those things. Now, I'm going to present, just for simplicity and to make it like not so long, present one opinion. I hope it would be the more majority opinion, stronger opinion, something like that, inshallah. In some of these cases, there are other opinions, but like I say, I want to try to present the one that's, more majority of scholars or, better in terms of the evidences and things like that. Okay, so this is just as an introduction. Wanted to mention that. So we're going to get started, inshallah. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is debt. Okay, so, and the first thing about debt is, do you pay zakah on debt payable? Okay, so debt payable is you borrowed some money from someone. So you owe someone some money. Okay, let's say from a friend or something you borrowed, $10,000, and it's for a few years. So also, actually, before I move on, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these type of things, I'm talking about something that we've had debt or we've had assets for over a year. So, I'm not talking about for a few months. Okay, because zakah is payable at the end of the hawl, the end of the zakah year, right? So you borrowed some money, so now you have debt. Okay, so how do you pay? Like, are you entitled to deduct that debt of $10,000? So let's say you have, just an example, $50,000 in assets, between your cash and other assets, it's $50,000, but you have $10,000 in debt. Do you deduct that or not? What we want to understand, brothers and sisters, is that really, by the best opinion among the scholars, we do not deduct long-term debt. We do not and the reason for that is that zakah is looking at that year. So the end of the zakah year, end of the hawl, and the year before, one lunar year, okay? So if you give your zakah, for instance, on the 1st of Ramadan, so it's looking up to that point and to the last 1st of Ramadan. So, we don't deduct debt that is going to go on and on and on and is long term, okay? It's not looking into the future, because I've heard people say that, I don't have to pay zakah on this amount of money I have savings because I'm going to need it in the future. So same idea. Zakah is not looking at that future. We don't even know if that future will exist for us, right? So it's just looking at that 1 year, okay? So, we don't deduct long-term debt. Maybe it's just very short-term you can deduct, but not something long-term. Let's say you borrowed this from your friend, the $10,000 I was giving it as an example, and you're borrowing it for 3-4 years, whatever it is. So it doesn't mean you deduct the debt every single year. You don't deduct it at all because it's long-term. And then when you pay it back, it'll come out of your account, and you'll have less assets upon which you calculate your zakat. So this is one important thing, because I think I've seen, these zakat calculation sites or whatever, or charts, and they talk about deducting debt. I'm not sure if it's clearly understood that you shouldn't put your long-term debt there. Okay? In fact, myself, I don't even put the short-term debt. If there's bills that are bills to be paid, they're going to be paid in a few days, I don't even bother with it. Okay? Because that would be taken into account the following zakah year anyway. Okay? So one important thing about debt payable, we do not deduct long-term debt. Now, the next one is, I hope that's clear, that's an easy one to discuss. What about the opposite, debt receivable? Okay? So someone owes you money, and this is an important concept because it can come up over and over again. Okay? So someone owes you money. Do you pay zakat on that or not? So a friend asked you, okay, for $10,000, you gave them the $10,000. The question is, it's your $10,000, but it's not in your hand. Do you pay zakat or not? Okay? So there's a few cases that it could be. It falls into, a few cases. Two of the main ones could be this. So case number one is, and in the books of fiqh, sometimes it's referred to that you gave your zakat to a rich person, relatively rich person. What they really mean by that is that can you get your money back or not relatively easily? Okay, this is the point. So sometimes you give to a person, they already have money, but for some reason they're expanding their business or whatever, they already have a nice running business. They have quite a bit of money, but they need some more. Okay, but they are well-to-do, so if you really needed your money back, you could ask for it, and probably they would give it to you. So what's that similar to? Isn't that similar to, like if I use an analogy, it's almost like you have money in a bank. It's not with you, it's not in your hand, but it's your money. But if you needed to go get it, you could get it. So same thing if you lend somebody some money, okay? And it's relatively easy to get it back. Okay, let's say they're a rich person or whatever, or they wouldn't have a problem. Then what would you do you think? What would you do? Would you pay zakah on it every year? Yes, so in this case, you would pay zakah as usual because it's almost like having money in the bank. Okay, but the more common case number two. Case number two is that you cannot get your money back very easily. Somebody is asking you for that money to help them because they're in difficult circumstances. They wouldn't ask you otherwise. Or you agreed to a term, okay, that, you promised, I'm going to give you this for 5 years. So, there's a term and then you really can't ask for it back, okay, because you agreed and promised that you won't ask for it back for 5 years. So you can't get it back. Or the person, as I said, can't give it back. They're in difficult circumstances. They have a personal emergency. They need some money. They don't have money to give you back. So even if you asked, you couldn't get it. So is zakah payable every year? So this is your money, 10,000, let's say you lent out. It is your money, but are you going to pay zakah every year? What do you think about this case? Any ideas? Yeah, so here, in this case, like I said, there's some opinions on this, different opinions. But the opinion that I think is a good one is you do not pay zakah every year, first of all, okay? Then what you do, when you get it back, let's say 5 years, for example, and let's say you pay zakah at the beginning of Ramadan. You can pay it at any time, but I'm just saying, in fact, probably a lot of people pay it, beginning of Ramadan or something like that, right? But let's say you get it partway through the year, any time of the year, okay? But before Ramadan. let's say 3, 4, 5 months before Ramadan. But you pay zakah, beginning of Ramadan. So the difference here is you do not wait for your hawl to complete. Okay? You pay zakah once on that amount immediately. This is the difference. So you don't pay every year over those 5 years, but as soon as you get it back, even it's 1 month before your zakah time to pay, you pay right away, immediately. You do not wait for the hawl to complete. Okay? Is that clear? Because it's been outstanding for so long, so now you get it back in your hand, okay? You pay right away. Okay? Even it's in Sha'ban. Now the question is, let's say you keep that money, you paid the zakah, okay, you fulfilled your obligation of zakah on that money that you received back, but now after a month, 2 months, 3 months, your hawl comes to an end for your zakah. Your zakah is payable, and you held on to that money. Do you pay again? Yes, you pay again. Okay? This is the difference. Is this clear? Because this concept is, as I said, is going to repeat on all these kind of situations. So, of course, if you spend it, then that's a different story. In other words, that 10,000, as an example, you add it to your assets, first of Ramadan, okay? And just calculate normally, because it's sitting there, okay? Now, so that takes care of debt. Now, I inserted I give this, regularly. I inserted a new one, zakah on jewelry. Okay, brother. Maybe I'll take questions afterwards, inshallah, because I have a little limited time today. So, inshallah, but I can take up the questions, inshallah. Zakah on jewelry. Okay. So, the men don't wear gold, of course, but women, they have maybe gold jewelry. So what are the rulings on that? So gold, silver jewelry, something like that, okay? So when the jewelry is in use, we're talking gold, silver jewelry, we're not talking about costume jewelry, fake jewelry. We're talking about jewelry that has actual gold content, silver content in it, okay? So if it's in use, according to the better of the two opinions, you do not pay zakah on it because it's in use, something you're using, okay? However, a lot of us have, women, they have jewelry that's stored, maybe given to them, for the marriage or from their parents or whatever it is, gift. So it's stored, it's not used, okay? So what is the ruling on that? So on that, we must pay zakah, by including its value in the rest of the assets, if it's not in use. So it's kind of stored, okay? Now, I think that's straightforward. We all know that. But just to make sure, and I can skip this, I don't want to get too technical, okay? How would you, let's say you had 100 grams, a woman had 100 grams of 22 karat gold jewelry. It's all gold, but it's 22 karat. How would you go about calculating, step by step? Anybody want to say maybe what the first step would be? Because this has to be done every year. Why? Because the gold value changes, correct? It changes all the time. So most likely it changed from the previous year when you calculated at the end of the whole hawl of the previous year. So now here's a hawl, new hawl, let's say. Let's keep using Ramadan, the first of Ramadan as an example. So what do you do? What would be the first step? Sorry? Okay, so I can't hear exactly, but what I think the first step is, you're going to calculate on the day of your day you calculate the zakah, first of Ramadan in this example, you're going to figure out what is the gold price, correct? That's what you're saying. Yeah, you're going to calculate the gold price on that day. Is that easy to do? Now it's so easy to do. Go to the internet, gold price per gram. I said it's 100 grams, right? So we're working in grams. So you can get in Canadian dollars, you can get the gold price per gram, okay? So you have that now. Now what do you do? What's the next step that you could think of doing? Sorry? The value of the jewelry. Okay, how do you do that? Yes, you could do that. So, in other words, the brother's saying absolutely correct. You need to know the value, okay? So that's another way to do it. That's an quick and easy, I guess, maybe not quick, but you could take the jewelry and get it appraised, okay? That's one way, right? Then you get the exact price. But I'm saying if it's pure gold, I mean if it's gold jewelry, all of it is gold, and you know how many carats it is, how could you calculate that another way? So another way is, rather than maybe having to go, I know it gets complicated if there's diamonds in there and things like that, or something else. But that's why I'm saying I'm keeping it simple. If it's gold and you know it's 22 karat, because sometimes it's stamped, right? Right there. And you know it's 100 grams. If you don't know how much it weighs, you can actually weigh it on a scale, yourself even. So the thing is, what is this 22 karat stuff? Okay, what does that mean? The carat is the purity of the gold. So when you're looking on the internet, this is the point I wanted to make right now. When you're looking on the internet, usually what you're looking at is the price of pure gold, which is even more than 24 carats. 24 carats is 99.99% pure gold. It's almost pure. But the price you get, okay, from the internet, let's say it's $80 per gram, okay, something like that, that is pure gold. So 22 karat is not pure gold. Even 24 karat is almost, but just 0.0001% off. So 22 karat gold is how much gold actually in there? Can you find that out? How? Go to the internet again. It's so easy now. You only have to look this up once. 22 karat gold is 91.67% pure gold. Okay, that's on the internet there. So, the gold in there, if it's 100 grams, but 22 karat, it's actually only 91.67 grams of pure gold in there. Why do they do that? So it's more workable. Pure gold is going to be hard to brother, maybe questions maybe at the end, inshallah, because inshallah, I try to keep moving forward. Just make a note of your questions, inshallah. So it's if you want to be very accurate, of course, if you don't do that calculation, you'll pay more zakah, which is, being more conservative, okay? But if you want to be exact, this is what it is, okay? So I don't want to make it too complicated. Let me know if I'm making it too complicated, by the way, okay, inshallah? But I thought I'd cover that off, just point that out. Maybe it's well known, but this is what it is. And 18 karat is going to be even less than that, okay? So you can use that in your calculation. Or as the brother said, to make it simple, you could get it appraised. But this is something that has to be done every year, okay? Because the gold price might go up. If it goes down, okay, you might overpay, okay? But as I said in the announcements, if you underpay, that's a problem. If you underpay, that's a problem. Okay, next point is zakah on RRSPs, okay? So, RRSPs, although it's in an account, when it comes to zakah, we were talking about the debt, right? Whether you can get the debt, whether you can get your money back or not. If you can, you pay zakah. If you can't, then you're going to pay when you receive it, right? So coming back to the same concept. RRSPs, tell me, can you get that money or not? You can get that money? Is it your money? Do you pay zakah? Yes. That's Sorry? There's a locked-in. What is a locked-in RRSP? Okay, so that's something else. I don't think that's a regular RRSP. Yeah, that is something else. But a regular RRSP, you know, will you get penalized if you take the money out? Yes. Okay. Okay. So, but you can get it, correct? So do you pay zakah on RRSPs? Very simple. Yes. You pay zakah on your RRSP because you can get that money. Yes, okay, I'm coming to that. That's good. So what you do, how do you calculate it? You calculate on the same thing, just like you're calculating on, you're looking at your bank statement, how much cash you have on that day, on your end of zakah day, end of haul. Same thing. RRSPs, you're going to look on that day, what is the value? So you have statements and everything that you can just get that very easily. So it has to be the value on that day. Maybe from the previous year it was lower, maybe from the previous year it was higher, okay? So you have to go with now because the zakah is going to be paid now, okay? Now, so when you get the total amount, okay, do you deduct the, what is called withholding tax or not, what the brother is saying? The answer is you do not deduct that. What's the reason? What would be the reason for that you're not allowed to deduct that? Because you're not deducting it. Pretty simple. You're not deducting it, and you're not paying any withholding tax, right? It's sitting there, so that is a theoretical situation. When it comes later, when you actually withdraw and you lose money, then that's fine. That'll be taken into account at that time. But you can't like say, okay, I'm going to lose 30% or whatever it is, so I'm going to deduct that now and not pay on the full amount. We have to pay on the full amount, okay? And RESPs, I'm not fully familiar with RESPs, but the idea, the main concept is the same. You pay on the current value on the day of your zakah, day your zakah is due, and you pay on the value at that time. Okay? Is that clear? Yeah, okay, good. Sorry. Sorry, but I'll come to your question maybe, inshallah. Okay, zakah on a company pension. A company pension is something similar to what you're saying, okay? So it probably fall into the same category. The point is this. Sometimes we get confused with the names and titles and all that kind of stuff. We have to know what it is. What is it in accordance to Sharia? The company pension is this. You own it, but it's definitely not in your hand. You cannot get at it. You can go to your company and say, give me my pension. Okay? They're going to say no. You don't get it until you retire. Right? So you cannot get it. So what is this like? Yeah, but what is it like? What's the previous example? Yes. So it is like a debt receivable. You know, you are owed this money, okay? It's your money, but you're owed, okay? You're owed much later. Just like you gave your friend 10,000 for 5 years, this is the company, maybe 50,000, going to give you in 30 years, okay? So it's the same concept. You do not pay on it every year, but you pay when you receive it. However, in this case, maybe, you know, if you get a lump sum, then you do the same thing that I said, you pay immediately. But usually I think company pension is it may be paid lump sum or it may be paid monthly. If it's paid lump sum, you pay it right away. And if it's paid monthly, you just treat it like your salary. You know, just add it to your bank or whatever. And then when your zakah years comes, you know, you'll take that into account at that time. Okay? Government pension. Government pension. So the government pension, regardless what we call it or wherever it is, we look at its characteristics. Its characteristics is that you don't own it, right? You don't know the amount. You just think maybe you might get it, okay? It's not in your hand. You can't go to the government and say, give me my pension now. And even the amount is unknown. We don't know how much it's going to be. So once again, would you pay zakah? So you don't pay, again, once you don't pay zakah on something that you don't own and it's not in your hand. So you look at these two characteristics. So here, no zakah is payable. No zakah is payable. I think this is clear. Now, when it's paid, I think it's monthly, right? It's not lump sum. So you just treat it like you do now with your salary. You're doing your job, you're getting your salary, you're putting it in a bank account, and at the end of the year, you're doing your calculations, okay? Okay, next one is this too technical? No, CPP. Okay, so I hope it's not too technical. Should I make it less technical? Fiqh is like this, it's it's not easy to make it like, so anyway, okay, another question that comes up is land and buildings. Question is, either here, back home, I inherited from my parents, a piece of land. Okay, it's sitting there. Do I pay zakah on it or not? This is the question. So a lot of brothers and sisters seem to be in this situation, so let's discuss this. So I'm not talking about your residence. That's I'm coming to that in a minute, inshallah. I'm talking about something inherited, even an investment property. Even an investment property. You bought a property, a condo or something, somewhere as an investment, okay? You want to rent it out. You're hoping that it might increase in value. You make some profit, okay? Piece of land, whatever it is. So that's the scenario, okay? So first of all, you have to determine if you're in the business of selling land and building. Most of us probably are not in that situation. This is a person who actually has land like it's inventory, merchandise. They're constantly buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and selling, okay? So in this case, that's all inventory. And inventory of business is zakatable every year based on its current value, okay? So I think that's clear, but what about the person who has this inheritance? Maybe they're using it, not using it, renting it, not renting it, okay? They're keeping it also, they don't want to sell it, they inherited it, or they bought it, they're hoping to make some money off of it. It's an investment, keeping it as investment. This is not like the type of business that, somebody who has merchandise, like the previous example that I gave, okay? So, somebody who's holding on to land 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever, that's not a businessman who deals with land, okay? So do you pay zakah on it or not? Yeah, you have the answer already. You have the answer already. It's the same thing what we discussed, okay? So you do not pay every year. Imagine if you had to pay every year, what would happen to your land if you paid 2.5% on your land every year? What would happen to your land after 40 years? Right, 2.5% times 40 is 100%. So you paid 100% zakah on it. You pay the total value, right? So you don't pay every year. Okay? So that's one point. Then, when you sell it, if you sell it, what do? You get a big lump sum of money. Let's say you get $1 million. But it's not Ramadan. It's not first of Ramadan. Okay? Let's say it's 6 months before Ramadan. You get this $1 million. What do? You pay the zakah. Yes, one time. One time. And you don't pay for previous years. Okay? Once again, the same thing will happen. If you have to pay for retroactive 40 years, you don't have any land left anymore. So you pay one time, okay? Not for previous years, just the one time. And then you have that money. And if that money is still sitting with you when your hawl comes, then you pay zakah again, okay? Residence is easy. You never pay on your actual place of residence, your house, your home, whatever it is. You don't pay on that. Even if you sell it, okay, you do not pay zakah at that time. But if you sell your home, you get $1 million, you put that in the bank, you didn't pay zakah on it. But if that $1 million is still sitting and the zakah year comes and it's still sitting there, of course, you include it in your assets and you pay zakah. Okay, how about shares? Company shares. Company shares. What do you think? Yes, it's like RSPs, right? You own them, and they're in your hand, right? You can sell them, and you can get the money. So you pay zakah every year on the current value of the shares. Okay, so here's a good one that I think you can answer. What about, this is from the husband's perspective, what about a woman's, the wife's unpaid mahr? What do you think of that? We're not talking about paid, so this is mahr that, the husband promised to pay, but hasn't paid yet. It's been 5, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? The wife has been kind and said, you can take your time, okay? So mahr, when does it become debt? When does it become a debt on the husband? So when does it exactly become a debt on the husband? Does it ever become a debt? Let's say the wife says, you can pay it later. You can pay it after 30 years. When does it become a debt? This is an important point. Sorry? Yeah, so from the time of the nikah, it becomes half of a debt. Half of it becomes a debt. When the marriage is consummated, then it becomes a full debt. So if the husband said, okay, I'm going to give you mahr of $10,000, so after the consummation of the marriage, so early on, that becomes a debt on the husband from that point. Even the wife says, you can pay me later, okay? Right? Paying later doesn't mean it's not a debt. Just like when we get our bills, electricity bill, right? It's due because we got the bill. We used this amount of electricity the previous month. It's due, but the company gives us, maybe 1 month to pay. But it doesn't mean it's a debt from the time we, receive the bill. So here, same idea. Wife may have said, okay, pay, you can give me whenever you want, 20 years later if you want, but it's still a debt, okay? So once again, you have the answer, okay? So the unpaid amount, and I put this in because sometimes maybe this is going to be overlooked, right? So from the husband's perspective, what is it? It's a debt payable, okay? So once again, the husband should not be deducting the mahr from their assets. That's the point. From the wife's perspective now, what is it? Debt receivable. Okay? So we refer to the previous discussion. The wife, when she gets it, she pays immediately. Okay? And then she keeps it with her assets and it continues. Okay? Another question that comes up is, can you pay your zakat in advance? Can you pay your zakat in advance? Okay. Up to how many years? Most people probably say it's 1 year, right? Like, for this Ramadan, maybe some of us have been paying our zakat in advance because there's needs coming up, But actually, you can pay 2 years in advance. There's a hadith on that, okay? So 2 years in advance is agreed upon. Now, if there's a need, then maybe you can go further than that, but 2 years is documented in the Sharia. Okay? So you can go a little more in advance, actually. Now I'm going to switch to the recipients of zakah. Who can you give zakah to? We know the 8 categories, poor and needy, etc., right? I'm not going to go into those details that I think we all know. I'm going to point out some important issues that we should be aware of when we're giving our zakah. So first question is, it's a common question as well. So if you see a person, or you know a person, clearly they are poor and needy. So there's no question. There's no question. They are poor or they're needy, okay? So they fall into one of these 8 categories. This is confirmed. Can you give them your zakah? Yes, you can give them your zakah as long as you do one more check. One more check. Okay? This is where we have to be careful. We have to check, and most likely, it's okay, but it's always good to check. We have to check, is there someone for that person who's poor and needy? Maybe they became poor and needy just recently. Is there someone who's responsible for them who can support them, who is obliged to support them? So let's say they have parents who can support them. So first, those parents have to fulfill their obligation to support their child. Okay? Or do they have children, adult children? Here's an elderly parent, they need. Okay? Clearly they need. We're not disputing that. But let's say they have children who are obliged to support that individual. We have to check that first, because then you cannot give them the zakah. What has to happen is those children have to support, the parent have to support. Now, if the supporting person, the parents or the children, are unable or even refuse, unfortunately this happens, okay? They refuse to help and fulfill their obligation, then you can give them their zakah. So that's why I'm saying there's one extra step, okay? So let us be a little bit careful about that. Those who cannot receive zakat from us, some questions come up. So basically what it is our direct ascendants. Just to make it simple, this is a rule, a principle that we can memorize. Our ascendants and our descendants, male or female, cannot receive zakah from us. Cannot give them zakah. Why? Same principle what I just said, because that chain has an obligation to support. So ascendants, we're supposed to support them. Descendants, we're supposed to support them. If we're unable to, our descendants are supposed to support us. Our ascendants are supposed to support us. This is an obligation. So we cannot fulfill one obligation through another obligation. If we give them our zakah, it's like a conflict. We just fulfilled our zakah obligation, we fulfilled our obligation to support them through our zakah obligation. That's why it doesn't work that way. So it doesn't matter. So what I'm saying, ascendants, meaning we cannot give zakah to our parents, both mother and father, grandparents, great-grandparents, nor can we give to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, both genders. Okay? We cannot give. So that's something to keep in mind. So similarly, a husband cannot give zakat to his wife because the husband is obliged to support his wife. So he cannot fulfill that obligation through the giving of zakah. Now, so after having said that, the question comes up, can I give my brother or my sister, a sibling? Now there's two opinions on this, okay? But I think the better opinion is that it is permissible to give zakah to your brothers and sisters if they qualify for zakah, of course. If they fall into one of those categories, right? They're poor, they're needy, nobody's supporting them, parents aren't supporting them, children aren't supporting them, meaning maybe our nieces or nephews are not supporting them, okay? Their own parents, okay? So then we can give zakah. Or the children are very young, let's say, not working, don't have any money, these type of situations. So we check that. If that's clear, then we can we can give zakah to our brothers and sisters. Okay. Yes, if it's quick, inshallah. Sorry? Sorry, I can't hear you, Sheikh. Anyway, afterwards, inshallah, afterwards. Inshallah. So, because I'd like to finish too, because sometimes when there's questions and maybe it's not applicable to others, then, so that's why I like to take them after or have them emailed in. Okay, a few important points, okay? This is coming the last few slides here. I'll try to do it quickly. These things, as I said, may not find them very easily, but the principle is very clear in the books of fiqh that we cannot benefit from giving zakah, okay? So one example that we may not realize we might be benefiting is if we take a tax receipt, a donation tax receipt. So if you give here, the zakah or whatever organization, you pay your zakah, you get a tax receipt. Can you claim it? You can claim it. You can claim it. Nothing's stopping you from claiming it. However, whatever benefit you get, you have to give that away. Now, you may say, well, okay, but I gave $1,000 in zakah, and I know $1,000, not 1 penny less, went to someone who is zakat eligible without any deduction. That's how it is, The organizations, they give it like all of it is used as zakah without any deduction. Now, if I got $400 back, it doesn't mean that that person received $600. They got the $1,000, but I got $400 back. And it's usually that significant amount. It's usually between 40 to 49%. So I got $400 back. Nothing, the zakah reached all of it. So why shouldn't I take it? It's based on this well-known principle in the books: you cannot benefit from your zakah. So I say, well, but, it's not coming from my zakah back to me, okay? And it's coming from my tax money, which is a separate pool of money. The government is not giving you any of its own money. It's giving your tax money back, the one they grabbed, right? They took, it's coming from your own tax money, a different pool of money. Why shouldn't I keep it? Because once again, you are benefiting. Because if you hadn't given that zakah and you hadn't taken that receipt, would you get that money? You wouldn't get that money back, okay? So you cannot benefit. So any benefit you get, you give it away. Now, it's not just a refund. Maybe you're not going to get a refund, but you're going to get your taxes reduced, but you're not going to get any money back, okay? Maybe you won't get a refund because maybe you didn't pay your tax yet, okay? Or other circumstances. You have to calculate what that benefit is. So with computer software, that's very easy now. The zakah portion of your receipt, you enter it, you see what the effect is on the taxes, then you delete that receipt, you see what the difference is, and that's your benefit from the tax receipts. Now, when you give for the donation to the masjid, or you give just general sadaqah, you can keep that money. You get money back, you keep that money. This is just for zakatul mal, zakatul fitr, udhiyah, these kind of things that are wajib. You shouldn't benefit from them. You have to give it back. Okay? So I know that's a little bit, involved, but that's what it is. Some people say, okay, I don't want tax relief. It's too complicated. That's fine. But then, the government is benefiting Whereas we could take it back. They've given us this benefit. It's good to take it back and give it away. Somebody could benefit from it, right? Now, the other thing is, another principle in the book of Fiqh is transportation costs. When you pay your zakah, okay, you know, a farmer has to give some of his crops as zakah. So he has to pay for it to be transported and distributed. Pay someone, a buggy, or whatever it is, a truck, okay, to take it. And let's say he had to pay like $50. That $50 is not considered zakah. Okay? Now in this day and age, okay, where could this be an issue? Where could this be an issue? Sorry? Yes, exactly. Exactly, alhamdulillah. So when you send your zakah to another country, maybe we use the those money transfer, right? Like Western Union. They're going to charge a fee. So you go there and I say, okay, I want to send $1,000 of zakah, okay? So they, you know, figure it out for you in the foreign currency, whatever it's going to be, the recipient is going to receive this much, okay? And then you consider done. I paid my $1,000 zakah. But in there, there's a fee. Could be $10, could be more, whatever it is, okay? So we have to be careful of that as well. So we cannot take that. So maybe the fee is $20. So we record in our book or wherever we keep it, our spreadsheet, we record 980 paid, not 1,000 paid. Okay? So that's, you know, that principle being applied, you know, to this day and age. And also when we pay by the debit card, let's say, okay? We pay $1,000 of zakah on the debit card. But that organization, if you're paying by debit card even, isn't getting that amount of money, okay? But don't be worried. At the masjid here, you don't have to worry. It's covered. There's lots of brothers and sisters who cover that. Top it up, okay? So you don't have to worry here. But I'm just saying, in general, you know, keep in mind that if you're giving it to some place, they're not going to receive when we use these modern methods these days of payment, okay? So that fee is not, yes, Sheikh, if it's quick.
If I want to send you money, I make sure the different amount I pay the extra for myself.
Yeah, so you top it up whatever way you want. Yeah. I'm saying you record it as 980, just make sure you give 20 more, or you send 20 more, whatever it is, but just make sure you don't put that fee that it's paid just because you actually paid it when you were giving your zakah. That went to Western Union or something like that. If you make a mistake in calculating your zakah, let's say you learn something, like we're all learning, and we discover, oh, innocently, I didn't know, and I was calculating my zakah wrong. Can we just let that go? The thing is, we cannot let that go. Zakah is different. Like, you know, we're fasting now. I accidentally drink some water. Forgetfully, unknowingly, unintentionally. So my fast is valid as long as it was like that, accidentally, unintentionally, forgetfully. But this is not the case with zakah, okay? Zakah, if we made a mistake, even if it was making it for 30 years, we have to go back 30 years and fix it. Okay, it has to be paid. If we give it to someone who's not eligible, that's why I was saying let's be careful when we're giving it, okay? There's that extra check that we should do if it's a poor, needy person, okay? If we give it to the wrong person, do we have to repay it? The answer is yes, we have to repay it, okay? The other thing is, just a few more points, we're almost finished. When it comes to zakah, just like other obligations, we're supposed to treat, zakah is an individual obligation. It's not like a family zakah that we pay, okay? So it should be that each individual does their own calculation and then pays, okay? So even like other family members who are obliged to pay zakah, like let's say the wife, maybe the husband can participate in helping or whatever, but it really should be that the wife, or even let's say grown kids who have assets, working maybe, they have a savings, they should calculate their own zakah and pay their own zakah from their own wealth. This is the point. Should come out of the same wealth that is, zakah has to be paid on. Final question that comes up a lot, brothers and sisters, is should we disclose our zakah to the person we're giving it to? Okay? So a few things on this. You do not have to disclose to the recipient that they're getting zakah. Okay? If they're eligible, they're eligible. They don't have to be told that this is zakah that you're getting. So you don't have to. So what's preferred though? It's preferred not to disclose. Preferred not to disclose. Is it permissible to disclose? The answer is yes, it is permissible to disclose as long as it's not for the purpose of showing off or, things like that. So you do not have to. It's permissible to do so, but it's preferable not to disclose. Okay, inshallah. And this applies to, whether it is this zakatul mal, which is obligatory, and also, if you're giving sadaqah, same ruling, same thing. If you're giving some sadaqah to a person who's in need, should you disclose it? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Okay, brothers and sisters, I'll stop here, inshallah. So, if you have any questions, I'll stay for a few minutes. There's something I have to do, so I can stay. Yeah, we'll come to questions. So, just, brother, if you have any questions, and we don't get to answer it now, you can just send an email to admin@masjidfarooq.com. Admin@masjidfarooq.com. I'll try to get back, inshallah, although it's very busy right now. So if I don't get to the question or whatever, you can still, or if you have to go, this is one way. But I'll try to take a few minutes if you have a question or two here, inshallah.